welcome back to the channel for another deep dive into the madness of Genoa City. It is a beautiful day, but things are getting incredibly dark and complicated on our favorite show. We have a massive amount of ground to cover today, so let's just jump right into the latest drama unfolding with the Newman family. So Nick Newman is finally out of the hospital. And honestly, it is about time, but also it feels way too soon if you ask me. I mean, the guy just survived a massive fentanyl overdose, a massive one. But of course, because he is Nick Newman, he is trying to play it cool. He stayed overnight, got discharged, and now he is walking around trying to reassure everyone that he is totally fine. Which is ridiculous. You guys know how Nick gets when he is cornered. He puts up this macho front and acts like he has everything completely under control when his life is literally falling apart at the seams. And his family is not buying it, not for a single second. I mean, think about it. Nick has this long, exhausting history of playing the martyr. Whether it was protecting Sharon back in the day, or trying to shield Summer from Phyllis's messes, Nick always puts the weight of the world on his shoulders. But this time he almost died on a cold floor because he couldn't handle his own demons. And his family is hovering around him, asking all the hard questions. Like, how on earth did he manage to overdose when he was supposedly in an outpatient rehab program? That is the big question right there. Everyone wants to know how he slipped so far down the rabbit hole without them realizing the true extent of it. But Nick being Nick, he completely deflects. He does not want to talk about the drugs. He does not want to talk about his addiction. He just wants to talk about Matt Clark. And this is where things get really messy, because Adam Newman, Victoria Newman, and Nikki Newman are all over Nick, pushing him to explain exactly what happened in Phyllis's office. Because none of them were there when it all went down. They were completely in the dark about the exact details of the overdose and the rescue. And this leads to the biggest shocker of the week for Nick. He finally learns the truth about who saved his life. When Nick finds out that Matt Clark and Phyllis Summers were the ones who actually saved him from dying, he is absolutely stunned. And then he is furious. He completely loses it. He is so angry that this maniac, this absolute psycho who tortured his family, was the one who put his hands on him to save him. Nick is disgusted that Matt touched him. He hates the idea that he owes his very life to his worst enemy. But Nikki and the rest of the family, they do not care about the irony right now. They are just so incredibly relieved and glad that Nick survived. Nikki is practically in tears just looking at him, so grateful that her son is still breathing, no matter who did the CPR. She doesn't care if the devil himself gave Nick mouth to mouth, as long as Nick is alive. So this sparks a massive debate among the family about Matt Clark and his supposed amnesia. Because let's be real, half the fans on social media still think Matt is faking it. But after he saved Nick, it is getting harder and harder to believe that this is all an act. Sharon chimes in, and you know Sharon always has to put her therapist hat on. She tells the family that she feels like some underlying core instinct must have kicked in for Matt. Like, deep down, underneath all the trauma and the psychopath behavior, there is a human being who genuinely wants to help. And maybe I am being too harsh, but I just roll my eyes a little when Sharon gets like this. I mean, this is Matt Clark we are talking about. The guy who has terrorized this town, the guy who manipulated and destroyed lives without a second thought. But then again, maybe she is right. Maybe the amnesia wiped away the monster and left behind someone who actually wants to do good. It is a really compelling argument, and it has the whole family completely divided on what to do with him next. I mean, can a brain injury really reset a person's moral compass? The fans are having an absolute field day with this theory. And Noah Newman is right there in the middle of it, discussing with the others about what their next move should be regarding Matt. Noah has every reason to want Matt dead after everything that happened in Vegas and Chancellor Park. But even Noah is looking at this situation and scratching his head. Nick finally admits out loud what they are all thinking. They are not dealing with the same psychopath anymore. The Matt Clark they know is gone, and this creates a huge existential crisis for Nick. He asks the room, how are they supposed to get real revenge on a guy who does not even remember what he did? How do you punish a blank slate? It is a really profound question. If you torture a guy who has no memory of his crimes, are you getting justice, or are you just becoming the monster yourself? But ultimately, Nick still wants to see him. He needs to look Matt in the eye, so Victor steps in. Victor pulls Nick aside and reassures him that Matt Clark is safe on the property. And by safe on the property, Victor means he has literally locked Matt inside the private gym at the Newman Ranch, because of course he did. Victor cannot just call the police or handle things normally, he has to take prisoners. Victor tells Nick that Matt is secured, and that is all Nick needs to know right now. But Nick absolutely disagrees. He demands to see Matt immediately. Victor finally agrees to let Nick go down to the gym, but there is a catch. Because with Victor Newman, there's always a catch. Victor tells Nick he can confront Matt, but only if Nick promises to go straight to a real rehab facility immediately afterward. No more outpatient nonsense. Real, intensive rehab, and Nick promises. He gives his word, but you guys, do we actually believe him? I mean, I want to believe him, I really do, but a dick's lie. And Nick is so desperate to get to Matt that he would probably promise Victor the moon right now. Still, it is a powerful moment between father and son. While all this family drama is happening inside, Phyllis Summer shows up at the Newman ranch. And what happens next is honestly one of the most surreal scenes I have seen on this show in a long time. Sharon, Victoria, and Nikki actually express gratitude to Phyllis. Yes, you heard that right. The Newman women are thanking Phyllis Summers. They are genuinely grateful for the role she played in saving Nick's life. It is so weird to watch, but also kind of beautiful. Phyllis completely leans into it, of course. She paints Matt as the ultimate hero of the situation. She admits that she is willing to hand Matt over to Victor, which is a huge concession for her since Matt was her only leverage. Phyllis looks visibly unhappy about giving up her pawn, but she admits to the Newman women that the Matt she has been dealing with lately is nothing like the criminal mastermind she had heard stories about. And Phyllis demanding to see Nick right after this just shows how complicated her feelings are. She wants to check on him, she wants to see for herself that he is okay, but it also makes me wonder what Phyllis's long-term game is here. Is she really just feeling empathy, or is she just playing another angle? Sometimes I second-guess myself with Phyllis. Maybe I am being too cynical, and she really is just relieved that Nick is alive. But then I remember this is Phyllis, and she never does anything without a reason. Meanwhile, in another part of the ranch, Victor and Adam are playing a game of chess. And wow, the writers really love their heavy-handed symbolism, don't they? Victor and Adam, the two most calculating men in Genoa City, moving literal pawns around a board while they discuss the fate of Nick and Matt. Adam tells Victor that he thinks Victor is the one who needs to decide Matt's ultimate fate. Adam is basically washing his hands of it, deferring to the patriarch, and it is a very interesting dynamic. Adam usually wants to be the one pulling the trigger, especially when it comes to protecting his brother. But maybe Adam realizes that Nick's overdose has changed the playing field, and he doesn't want to make a wrong move. Or maybe Adam just knows that Victor is going to do whatever he wants anyway, so why fight it? So finally, we get to the moment we have all been waiting for. Nick walks into the Newman gym to confront Matt Clark, and the tension is just off the charts. Matt is in there, trapped, confused. But when Nick gets in his face, Matt does something completely unexpected. Matt tells Nick that he is genuinely glad Nick is okay. Matt says he saw the immense love that Nick's family has for him, and it moved him. And Nick is just thrown. He does not know what to do with that. He came down here expecting a fight. Instead, he gets this broken man. Nick demands to know if Matt is just putting on an act because he desires redemption. But Matt's response is honestly heartbreaking. Okay, that sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. Matt questions whether one good deed could ever possibly erase all of his past sins. He is having a full-blown existential crisis right there in the gym. He starts talking to Nick about the profound disconnection he feels. He explains these terrifying, unexplainable flashes of memory that hit him out of nowhere. Memories of doing things so horrible that he cannot even fathom that he was the one who committed them. He tells Nick that even though he doesn't remember doing these things, he sees the way everyone looks at him. He knows how deeply and intensely he is hated. And then Matt does the unthinkable. He looks Nick dead in the eye and admits that Nick has every right to kill him. He tells Matt that he is completely willing to accept that fate if Nick decides to end it right now. Matt just sits there, completely surrendered. He says that he hopes that by saving Nick's life, he has taken at least one step closer to saving his own soul. And wow, the religious undertones. Matt is basically offering himself up as a sacrifice. He is so exhausted by the burden of being a monster that he just wants it to be over, but he hopes his last act was a good one. Nick is standing there, fist clenched, ready to destroy this man. He admits to Matt that he could end him right then and there. But Nick looks at Matt, and he sees the truth. He sees that Matt would just sit there with that clueless, broken look on his face and take it. And Nick realizes that killing him wouldn't fix anything. Nick screams out, wondering where the justice is in all of this. It is so utterly unfair that Matt gets to forget his sins while Nick has to live with the nightmare of his addiction. In a fit of absolute, helpless rage, Nick turns away from Matt and just starts wailing on a nearby punching bag. He punches it over and over again, letting out all that toxic anger because he can't hit the man he came to kill. It is a stunning, emotionally exhausting scene. We will have to see if Nick actually goes to rehab like he promised, and what Victor decides to do with Matt next.